Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. The training lasts about an hour and a half. We do record the training, so you can come back later and watch it at your convenience. Please feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask questions about a feature as I go over them. And since it is 10 o'clock, we'll go ahead and get started here. You'll see here on the page our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. I do recommend bookmarking this page so you can get here easily in the future. To get logged in, we need 3 pieces of information. The first is your username, which is your email address, and this should be in all lowercase letters. Your password, which should have been emailed to you, that is case sensitive. And then your account name, typically your organization name or your own name if you signed up using that. If for some reason you don't have like your password or it's not working, down here at the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, you want to click on the forgot your info link. This will flip it around. Still need that email address. And then here we need one of the 2 following boxes, right? Not both. So either the account name or a phone number on the account. And that's a customer facing phone number. Right, then you click on the reset password box. This sends you an email with a link inside that lets you log in temporarily. And basically the point there is to change your password to something that you can remember. Logs you back out, takes you back here. You have the option here to click on Remember Me, and then you can sign in. Now I'm using a test account, so when I get signed in, it's taking me directly here to my dashboard page, right, which is a quick snapshot of the account. If it's your first time logging in, you get taken to your user account page. At any time, you can always get back to your user account page, by clicking it on your name, and that's up the top to the right of center of the page. It's a big pop-up. So here, for instance, that's where you would change your password. You could also change your time zone and language, etc. As a system admin over here on the left, I can click on the account level settings. So I can like update who the technical contact is or change the time zone and language for the entire account. Add-ons are something, again, system admins can access. This is to add additional features to your account, like advanced reporting, auto attendance, among others, including text forward. Some of the features may increase your bill, but there'll be a pop-up to let you know that this will increase your bill and by how much. And you have to confirm that to go forward. Over here next, we have the billing portal. If you click on that, there's a link right here, and that will take you to the billing portal. That's where you would access the previous invoices or updating the credit card or payment information. Also, system admins can click on the cancel account here and follow the on-screen instructions to close out the account. When you go through the website like this to cancel the account, it will close out the account at the end of the current billing cycle. Right? If you need to cancel the account before that, you would need to email our billing team, and that's billing@virtualpbx.com. And then when you're done here, go ahead and click on the close box over here towards the top right, and then you'll be back here on the dashboard page. So up at the top, you have your name, right? So you click on that, get to your password, etc. For most of us, to the right of your name, you have a D&D toggle, right? For do not disturb. Mine is currently enabled, right? So I'm not accepting calls, right? So if someone tries to call me directly, they're going to go to voicemail. All right, I can click on the little toggle here to turn it off or turn it, yeah. So I disabled, right, D&D, which means I'm accepting calls. Now, if I get assigned to the call center, right, ACD queues, the D&D toggle is automatically removed, right, because those 2 features don't work well together. All right, next we have the little phone icon here. This opens up a new tab. It takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. This has a login page, which uses your Dash login if you have a web phone added as a device on your user. Right? If you don't have it added yet, you're not going to be able to get logged into that page until you do add it as a device. Little chat bubble here. This opens a new tab, takes you to virtualtext.app. It has its own login page, but that is one of the ways you would make use of texting on your VirtualPBX account. Little question mark icon here. This opens up a chat window to speak to our support staff, right? So they can answer questions about a feature or setting like a VoIP phone up. The 3 horizontal line icon, that's the menu icon, gets you to other Dash features. For the majority of our training, we're going to be here on the dashboard, like 95% of it. A little arrow to the right icon is to log out. Now we're going to flip over here to the left-hand side where it says VirtualPBX. Below that, dashboard is highlighted in blue, right? So that's the page we're on. And then these other tabs here we'll be going over as part of the training. Then here in the middle, total users, I have 5, right? So I have 5 people who are making receive calls, right? I'm being billed for these 5 people. Total devices, I have 9, and there's a breakdown, right? So first up is softphone, right? Software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. This includes the VirtualPBX softphone app, as well as any third-party softphones you might be making use of. Web phone, this is another VoIP device that uses Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. It was developed after the soft phone, so that's why it has a separate heading. Cell phones, so you can add a cell phone or landline phone number as a device on the account, which means we can send calls to those devices. Just realize that when we send a call to those numbers, right, you're not going to be able to transfer those calls to another user on the account. Then we have SIP phone, right? This is a hardware VoIP phone. So SIP is a specific protocol that the phones use. So when you're shopping, you want to make sure you're looking for SIP compliant or SIP compatible phones. But a SIP phone here and this system here, again, it's a piece of hardware, right? It has an Ethernet cable connected to it to get to your router, to get out onto the internet, and then you use it like a phone, right? Pick up the handset, dial a number, make and receive calls. The unregistered devices, I currently have 0. That would be any devices you turn off on the dashboard. Essentially, you're not using it for whatever reasons. Total numbers, I have 17. Right? So I have 17 different phone numbers on my account. Your account includes some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. And if you go over that, you're going to be overage per number per month. You'd want to check with our account service team on what that would be if you're not sure what that is for you. So I'm definitely getting an overage on a per number basis here. And then here I have a breakdown of assigned numbers and spare numbers, right? Assigned number is a number that's in use, right? So someone can dial that number or assigned number and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail or join a conference or be sending a fax, right? Spare number counts towards your allotment of numbers. You're just not currently using it, right? Say your colleague Bob just recently retired, so you're taking his number out of service because you don't need calls to go to someone who's no longer with the company. Or for instance, you're about to expand into a new geographic area, a new storefront. You get a number for that store, but you don't want it in service right away because there's no one there yet. Right? You just want to get the number so you can put it on marketing materials. Then I have the breakdown here of USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? So it's an 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833. USDID just means a US local number, right? So if you have a phone number in Los Angeles, California, right? USDID, just as if you had one in Dallas, Texas. You can have international numbers on your account if you would like. You want to email our porting team, and that's porting at virtualpbx.com. And they need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's possible and if there are any additional requirements. Those additional requirements would come from the country in question. Conference bridges, I have 3, which means I've enabled the conference feature on 3 of my users. So I have 3 people who host or moderate a conference. Now we're going towards top right in this main number block here where I have 4 numbers. Right, so those 4 numbers, they're all going to the same location on my system. Right, so in this case, they're all going to have the same main greeting, for instance, and same menu options. The main conference number, you can have multiple conference numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. And that's the conference room number is what number everyone dials, right? So even your staff members would dial that. The fax box number, you can have the one main fax box number, and that's your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit the fax box, so you can allow for outbound faxing as well, which is via email to fax. So then we have the company directory. There's 2 links here, one for CSV and the other for soft phone. The CSV, just a spreadsheet file you download. It's going to have your staff members' names, their email addresses, their extension numbers, and their devices. The soft phone link is for use with the VirtualPBX soft phone app on a computer, right? So if you're using our app on a Mac or Windows PC, you can download this file and then upload it to your VirtualPBX soft phone on your computer. It will show your other staff members who are making use of the VirtualPBX soft phone. They'll be like contacts within your soft phone, and you can see the status of their VirtualPBX soft phones, right? So green meaning they're available, red meaning they're on a call. Now, if you have staff members using multiple devices, that your soft phone won't be able to tell you what the status of those other devices are, only what their VirtualPBX soft phone status is. All right, store, VirtualPBX store. This opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone. And the account realm, every account has its own account realm. This is used as one of the 3 pieces of information you need to program a third-party soft phone application. It's also needed for sending out a fax, right? So once you have your fax box set up and allow for outbound faxing, you create an email like you normally do. In the to field of that email, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, little @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file, right? So the system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. It doesn't look at the subject line. It does not look at the body of the email. So anything you type in those 2 fields does not get transmitted as part of your fax. All right, up here towards the top here, this caller ID button. I click on that. It's going to expand out quite a bit. That's weird. Not sure what's happening here. So up here at the top, your company caller ID. So you can select one of your main numbers to be your default phone number for your VoIP phones, for example, right? That would be their outbound caller ID. I'm not sure. There we go, maybe. So normally below this, you have your company caller ID name field, which is optional. You can enter up to 15 characters. It counts spaces among that 15 that we would associate with that number. And then below that, there's the company E911 information, right? Emergency information, where it wants a North American address. In the zip code field, for our Canadian customers, that's where you'd put your postal code. And then in the state field is where you would put your 2-character province abbreviation. And then you would click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, if you put information in that company caller ID name field, that gets transmitted to the other carriers who support this feature. It takes them about 3 business days to update their servers. But then when you make an outbound call from your VoIP phone, we're sending that name along with the number. Now, the CNAME field, we can only control what we send out. Right? What is received on the other end, that's not what we can control. Right? That's what that receiving carrier, they have final say. Now, when you make an outbound call, right, a call goes through several carriers before it reaches its destination. if one of those carriers doesn't support the CNAME field, right, the CNAME information doesn't reach the destination. But that last carrier, right, they have a couple different options, right? They can see the number and name, pass it through, right? Everybody's happy. What's most common, especially among the cell phone carriers, is they see the number and the name. They don't send the name. They just send the number through. And it's the cell phone carriers, by the way, who put like the spam risk or telemarketer information on. And in rare cases, what carriers can do is they can see the name and number, right? Look up the number under their own set of databases and put that name instead. So something to be aware of. So if you're going to test the CNAME, you definitely want to test it to a landline, if at all possible. Right, hold music. This allows you to upload your own hold music. Now, what this is after a call has come in and reached one of your staff members, right, and they've answered the call on a VoIP phone, and they press hold on that VoIP phone, that's when this media file will play. You can click the upload button here, find a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte in size by clicking the browse button, and then click on the up arrow icon. And once it's finished uploading, then click on Save Changes. And by default, this will be the hold music for all your staff members. Because of that 1 megabyte file size, we do recommend recording in mono, not in stereo, and that will give you a longer duration hold file. Like a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes. All right. Hours is actually part of main number, but in terms of like if you just started with us, you're going to want to have some other things set up before you get into main number. So I'm going to say, let's go over here on the left-hand side and click on the users icon. This shows your user page, which shows all your staff members on the account. The people with the blue suit icon, these are your system admins, right? Dante here, who is just a great person icon, he's just a standard user, so he's got very limited access. He can basically like check his voicemail, set up call forwarding on his own. That's really about it. Whereas the system admins can do everything we're talking about here. Up at the top, you can click on Add User to add a new person to your account. Right, first name, last name, system wants some sort of text. The email address used for login needs to be unique for each user. Right? So you cannot reuse an email address for multiple staff. This is how the system communicates with your staff members, right? So like voicemail notifications, password resets, that sort of thing. Password, create a password for the user. Main extension number, just enter in an extension number you want to use for the user. We recommend making use of 4-digit extensions as that gives you the most versatility and room for growth. You typically start off with extension 1000. So if it's your second person you're adding, it's going to add them as extension 1001. By default, the system will create a voicemail box for the user. It's intrinsically tied to the user. So if you added a user, left this checked, and then added a VoIP phone to that user, once that VoIP phone registers, they can pick up that VoIP phone and dial *98 and click call. That will log them into the voicemail box. And then the system will walk them through creating a PIN number for the voicemail box as well as their voicemail box greeting. They can get to further personal they can go into the personal settings and like record their name, which is what the system uses for the dial by name directory or the user directory. And here is your option to include that user in the company directory. The third option here, send emails to an alternate address. So if you want those password resets or voicemail notifications to go to an email address other than the one that's used for logging in, right? You can check this mark here and then enter that alternate email address in this box, right? And these two, right, the user directory and the alternate email address, you can change later at any time. Down here, last option, send credentials to the user. I do recommend checking that, so that way the person gets an email welcoming them to the Dash account and they have their login information. Create user. If that's if you only need to create one, create user and add another if you need to add another one, right? In either case, once you click on the buttons at the bottom, the person that you just added gets an email welcoming them to the Dash account because I put a check mark on this last one. And then the box will go away, or refresh if you click on create user and add another. Once a user is added, you can click on their name at any time, so you can change their name if you need to. Here's your option to change their credentials, right? So you can change their email address or change their password. And you also have the option to send them a password reset email. Right here, you can change their voicemail box PIN number. Just enter 4 digits and then save changes. Here's your option to send emails to an alternate address. And then here's the option to be in the user directory or not. Over here on the right, this little person icon has a pull down where you can change a user into an admin or an admin into a user. Little clock icon, this allows you to change the time zone for the user. Right? So their voicemail timestamps are the correct time zone for them. Little flag icon, this pull down allows you to change the display language for the user. Right? So the web page will change the language into either English, French, German, or Russian. Next up, we have ringing timeout. By default, this is 20 seconds. For Dante here, it's grayed out because he has a feature enabled called Follow Me. So that is overriding the default of 20 seconds. 20 seconds, typically speaking, plenty of time to send calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user making use of a cell phone, you'd probably want to increase this to like 30 seconds or so. It simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone. They have to find you first. The extension box, you can add additional extensions to a user if you want to. Right? Just click here and then enter the new extension number and then save changes. Users can have phone numbers if you want them to. You have the option here to buy new or add from spare. Right? So a spare number you're not currently using. You might have been using it in the past. So this is how you would reuse a number. Right? You would just click on the box and click on add selected and then save changes. Buy numbers is how you add new numbers to the account. Right? You have local and toll-free. Toll-free, choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with. Click on search, and it should populate a list of phone numbers for you. Right, you can scroll down to keep seeing more if they're available. Click add next to any number you like. You can add multiple if you want to. Right, and then you would click on, now at this point, the numbers aren't reserved or anything like that. Right, so you want to make sure you click on by numbers. Once you click on by numbers, that's where the system actually is adding the numbers to the account and they'll be yours. All right, so if like you added them to the cart and walked away, right, you got pulled into a meeting, it's possible, but by the time you got back to click by numbers, that the numbers aren't really available any longer. And it can take a little while for the numbers to get activated. One thing to keep in mind is when you add a number to a user, the phone number is available 24/7, right? It does not have hours of operation or days off or anything like that. Right, and then when you're done, you would click on Save Changes. You see a little gear icon here next to the numbers. So the first up is caller ID, right? So you can update the outbound caller ID as well as turn on the ability to accept inbound caller ID name. You can set up E911 for each phone number. And the reason for that is then you can assign a number to a VoIP phone specifically for the purposes of E911, right? So that way, you know, a colleague Angela works from home, you can have her home address associated with one of the phone numbers on the account. So if she ever dials 911 from her VoIP phone, her address is transmitted to emergency services instead of the corporate headquarters address. And then prepend is a VoIP phone feature where you can add text in front of the box here. And this text would show up on your staff members' VoIP phones as part of the caller ID, right? So in this case, like a common option would be to enter the word direct, right? And then save changes. So that way, when a call comes in on this phone number, when it rings, say Angela's phone, it's going to say have the word direct and then the caller ID of the person who's calling in, right? So she knows, oh, this person called me directly versus like calling in from a queue or group. And then once you're done, click on Save Changes. Next up, we're on the Devices box here, right? Just up here. And adding new devices. So first up is SIP phone. This is that hardware device. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some of them have a lot of phones, right? Some have like a dozen. Choose the make and model of the phone you want to work with. Give it a name, right? So Bob's phone or warehouse phone, something like that, just so you know what that phone is associated with. The MAC address, this is unique to each device. Typically a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone is plugged in, you want to check its status, generally speaking, or basic settings. And the MAC should be a setting in one of those two locations. Enter that here, and then click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Now, at that point, you want to click on the device box again, click on their SIP device, then go to Advanced, right? Click here, and then select Miscellaneous. Where it says Allow Reprovision, you want to click Unlock next to it. You should see a little green status saying it's been unlocked. And then Save Changes, and then Save Changes again. So now you've told our system, hey, I want to provision this device. Now you need to log into that phone's web user interface. That means you get the IP address of the phone, you enter that IP address into a web browser on your computer, log into the phone, and you need to get to the auto provisioning section tab and enter in a URL. For the specifics of that, if you look in the show notes, there's the auto provisioning phones document there that will show you screenshots of these various manufacturers, as well as proper syntax for that URL. And in some cases, additional settings that you may want to check on. After that, the phone's going to reboot a couple of times, and then it should show up as a green device like that one up there. All right. Next up, you have cell phone. And this also applies to landline, right? Give it a name. And then in the number field, you put +1 area code and number. No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. So if we click on this one here, right? So I have it a name, and then here's that +1 area code and number. And under Advanced Options, this is the default setup for a cell phone or landline. So let's go over what happens real quick. Right, call comes in, hits my user, it goes out to my cell phone, right? It rings. When I pick up, the first thing I hear is, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When I press 1, I'm telling the system, yes, I'm here, and yes, I want to take the call. The call is connected to me. All right, so it's an audio way to know, oh, this is a work call. Now, let's say, for instance, you've actually contracted out with an automated answering service to answer your calls after hours. Generally speaking, an automated answering service cannot press 1 to accept the call. It doesn't know to do so. It doesn't have a way to send that tone. So in that kind of circumstance, you'd want to come here under these advanced options, and where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail or landline's voicemail, put the check mark in front of it. So now when we send that call to your automated answering service, right, they pick up, we connect the call. And then everyone's happy. Now, if I did this on my actual cell phone, right, left it with this check mark here, what can happen is my cell phone voicemail can pick up, right? Let's say I'm driving and I don't feel like taking the call while I'm driving, so my cell phone voicemail picks up. That inbound caller ends up on my personal cell phone's voicemail, not on my dashboard here voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. Keep original caller ID is something that sometimes is changed. So by default, it's left on, which means customer Mary calls into the system, reaches out to my cell phone. So on my cell phone's display, I see customer Mary's phone number. Now, if I don't recognize the number and I've been getting hit with robodials and or like political calls, right? I may just let it go to voicemail because I don't want to deal with it right now. So as potentially, then you could miss a potential sale, right, or opportunity. If I uncheck this, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number show up on my cell phone, I see my main number, right? So that's, if we go back to the dashboard, whatever number you selected up here, that is what would show up on my cell phone. So hopefully I would recognize my main company phone number and say, oh, this is a work call. Let me answer it. All right. Next up is soft phone. All right. So this is that software application, uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. Now, anytime you add a soft phone or a web phone to your account, you're going to get this warning message. Please make sure you read it at least once. And then go ahead and click close. And then we're going to get a big box to show up here. And it defaults to adding a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using somebody else's soft phone application. If that's what you're going to do, that's fine. Right? Give it a device name. Then you're going to want to copy the SIP username. Click on the SIP password box, copy that, and then copy the account realm. Those are the 3 pieces of information you would need for your third-party soft phone application to make it work with us. Right, then you would click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. Now, if you want to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone app, then down here below where it says View Configuration Guide, there's a toggle. It's a little bit grayed out. It says Use Third-Party Application. When you click on that, it flips it and says Use VirtualPBX Application. You still need to give it a device name, right? But then you would click on Create Device. So test, right? And then you would click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, Dante here would get an email saying his VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. It's going to have his username and login for use with the soft phone app. It will also have download links so he can download the app to his, iPhone or Windows PC. And then the web phone, so the one I want to go over here and get that warning message. Right, pretty easy. Just give it a device name, click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Right, the web phone uses Dante's login information to log in on webphone.virtualpbx.net, so it does need to be assigned to a user right off the bat to be able to make use of it. Next up, we have user features. Right, first up, caller ID number. This is only for users that have a phone number assigned to them. This allows you to change their outbound caller ID from their VoIP phones to be their own phone number instead of the main company number. Right, so up here, you would click to enable. You select the phone number that's on their user, and then click on Save Changes. So now, whenever I make an outbound call from my VoIP phone, the number I selected is my outbound caller ID. Voicemail box. This is the default settings for the voicemail box that I created with the user. One thing to know is for voicemail boxes, they can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. And by default, there's 3 ways that you can listen to a message and 2 ways to manage the voicemail box. So that first way to listen to messages here, right, where we're attaching the messages to email, right? So you get an email notification saying, hey, you have voicemail. Here's the date, the time, phone numbers involved, the mailbox number. Here's an MP3 attachment. So you just click on the MP3 attachment, listen to the voicemail, and you can handle it. But it doesn't actually manage it for you, right? It's not deleted or anything like that. Now, you can always call into your voicemail box by default and listen to messages over the phone, right? So if you're from a VoIP phone on your user, *98, enter your PIN number, listen to it, and you'll have the option to delete. If you have your main number set to go to the virtual receptionist, right, or an auto attendant set to a virtual receptionist, you can call that number, and when you hear the main greeting play from any phone, right, so like your cell phone, you can hit *97, and then you enter your voicemail box number and your PIN number, and then you can listen to your messages over the phone that way. And the other way to check your voicemail messages is under this menu icon here, under the user portal. It defaults you to your voicemails tab, so you can listen to the message, you can download it. If you put a check mark in front of it, you can change its status. Follow me. This is for users with multiple devices, where you as an admin would enable it, and then you can decide what devices are going to be made use of. On the right-hand side, they're all defaulted to start off with do not ring. Right? You have to tell the system, hey, which devices do you want to make use of? Uncheck the devices you want to use, and you can click and drag the little green bars to give them a ring time. Up here along the top, these are timestamps. The last one you can edit. It defaults to 120 seconds. I can change it to say 90 seconds, for example. I can click this distribute button here on the left. So now I equalize the timeout between my two devices. I can click and drag to change the order and then distribute again. So now it's the web phone going first instead of the soft phone. Right? And I can uncheck this later and click distribute. So now that the cell phone is last. If I leave it disabled with multiple devices, when call comes in, all of my devices ring at the same time. And for whatever my ring duration is set for my user. Excuse me. Fax box, you can choose to enable a fax box for a user specifically, i.e. that one user has their own fax box. And then you're given the option to buy a new number, use a spare number, or assign a new extension. I recommend making use of a phone number, as that gives the user maximum versatility. If you assign a new extension number for the fax box, this person can only ever receive a fax. And even then, you're potentially limiting who can send them a fax. Right? So like some electronic fax services don't have a provision for adding an extension number. Right? So they just want, you can enter a number and that's it. So something to be aware of. As far as outbound faxing goes, if you have an extension number assigned, the system tries to use that extension number as an outbound caller ID, which causes it to fail. Conference bridge. Up here is where you click to enable. That means this person can host or moderate a conference. And then as an admin, you would need to set up a PIN number for them, which they can change under the user portal. The enable video conferencing, that's only for in-house use, right? So people, VoIP phone users on your Dash account. Anyone who's calling from an outside number wouldn't make use of it. Call forwarding. You have off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own, right? The failover mode is something you would need to set up as an admin for your VoIP phone users. And what this is if the VoIP phone goes offline for whatever reason, if you have this set up, then you can enter the phone number, right? +1 area code and number, click on save changes. So that VoIP phone goes offline, call comes into this user, it automatically gets forwarded to the number you designated. Now, if you have a user like this one who already has a cell phone as part of his normal call routing, you don't need to make use of call forwarding because it's already going to be forwarded to a cell phone as part of his device mix. All right, customized call recording. If you want to record your calls up here for the user, click to enable. It starts off looking like this, right? All 4 of these are blue in the middle. You need to tell the system what kind of calls you want to record. Right, so inbound internal, right? Coworker Dante called David, right? Do I want to record it or not? Or I can leave it in the middle. Right. Inbound external, customer Mary called. Probably, most likely want to record, right? Outbound internal means David called coworker Dante, right? And then outbound external is the user called customer Mary. So we see something like this, right? The external calls, or all 4, typically speaking. Your account includes some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. I believe it's still listed under the pricing page. You can double check that. Otherwise, you can reach out to our account services team and they can verify how much data storage you have and what the overage is if you go over. You can also, especially if you have heavy call volume and you're going to record all calls, I would also want to suggest speaking to account services about AWS integration. So we can turn that on your account, and that allows you to link your Dash account to an AWS account of your own. So then you can store your call recordings on AWS's site versus with us. This is something we do recommend for people in the insurance industries. Music on hold up here is to enable, and you can upload a staff member's individual hold music, right? So if you want your salespeople to have one set of hold music and the rest of your staff to have a different one, for each of your sales staff, you would come here, enable it, upload the file, or if it's already on the system, use the pull down to find the file, right? Click upload if you need a new one, and then save changes. Do not disturb, right? That's not taking calls at the time being. Hot desking. This is a VoIP phone feature. This allows staff members to log into a specific VoIP phone. You would just need to set up a hot desk ID. If you're making use of 4-digit extensions, for example, I would say make the hot desk ID their extension number. Up to you if you want to require a PIN number, and then you would click on Save Changes. So, right, I come into the office on Tuesdays. I sit down on desk number 2. I pick up the VoIP phone that's sitting there. I hit *11 and click Send. Right, so that takes me in to log into hot desking. The system asks me for my hot desk ID and then PIN number if that was required. It then tells me that calls from my user will now be sent to this device. So rest of my workday, calls are coming to me at desk number 2. End of my workday, I pick up the phone, hit *12, enter my hot desk ID, and that turns off hot desking. Next time I come into the office, Angela's sitting at desk number 2. I sit next to her at desk number 3 after saying good morning. Do the same thing, right? Pick up the phone, *11, enter my hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to me at desk number 3. All right, next up is groups, sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups. Up here at the top, you would click on Add Group. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number, and then click and drag the users you want to be in the group, and then click on Create Group at the bottom here. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. Right? So you can always change the name at any time. And then here you have the group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer the inbound call to your staff members. Little arrows here to the far right, so you can increase or decrease that as you see fit. You can also delete the group if you no longer need it. Otherwise, click on Save Changes. Next box is the members box. So this shows my staff members that are assigned to the group and how I'm offering calls to it. So right now, when calls come in, they're first going to Rose for 20 seconds. And then after that, it's offered to David, Dante, and Taylor. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the system doesn't keep track if a staff member is on a group call or not. So to say that first call came in, Rose picked up, right? So she's helping that person. Second call comes in. It would still try to offer the call to Rose for that first 20 seconds. After that, then it goes to the next 3 people. Now, you can also click distribute up here at the top. So now it goes to David first. But after 30 seconds, it then goes to Dante, right? Then after a minute, Taylor, and then to Rose. And again, it's always going to offer it to David first. You can click and drag so there's less ring time involved or less hold time involved for those later callers, right? You can always click and drag the users around to change the order, right? So if someone's on a different, on a project, you can adjust the total ring time of the box here as well. Click remove to remove a user. So like I can remove Rose, and then I would need to click redistribute. Down here is where I would add additional users back to the group, right? I.e. we're busier than normal. I can add them back in. and then click on Save Changes when you're done. The extension box, right? Groups can have multiple extension numbers if you want. Just click Add Extension, enter in the new extension number, and then Save Changes. Just like users, groups can have their own phone numbers if you want them to. Same basic process, right? Add from spare or by new, do a search, etc. And just like for users, phone numbers on a group are available 24/7, right? No hours of operation. Group features. First is ring back. So call comes into the group, right? Your staff member's phones ring. That ringing sound is then piped back to your inbound caller, ringing back. If you don't want that to happen, instead you want to have a media file play, you would enable ringback and then upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte in file size. One thing to keep in mind is the system will not loop the media file for you. So you want to make sure your media file, the duration of that file matches or exceeds the total ring time you have set up for the group. All right, but then upload, find the file, click browse, click up arrow, click save changes. Next action, if no one picks up, what do you want the system to do with the call? Right, so first you want to enable it, and then down here, choose where you want to send the call. Like a voicemail box, a different group, you can send them back to the main menu, a specific user or device, etc. And then click on Save Changes. Allow call forwarding. If you enable it and then click Save Changes, your staff members can make use of call forwarding. Again, if they're using a cell phone already as part of their device mix, they're going to get a call. You don't need to make use of call forwarding. Oh, one thing I should point out, calls from the group, ignore the follow me setting on the user. Right? So like Dante has follow me enabled, but if he's in this support group. So calls from the support group ring all his devices. Whereas if someone calls in and is transferred to Dante, or they enter his extension number directly, only those calls would follow his, or you make use of his follow me settings. Whereas calls from the group bring them all. Caller ID prepend VoIP phone feature. You can add either text or numbers that show up on your staff members' VoIP phones in front of their caller ID. I recommend making use of one or the other, not both, just because that can be a lot of information you're trying to shove onto a small screen. I personally like text more than numbers, just so I don't get it mixed up with the phone number of the person who's calling in. All right, so we have users and groups. Let's go to main number now. So first up, you have your main company numbers, right? So these are your default or basic numbers that your customers call into you. You have a little gear icon here, so you can update the E911, prepend, etc. You can always add new numbers or make use of your spare numbers here. Office hours strategy, you can be open 24/7, or you can choose to have custom office hours. If you do custom office hours, put a check mark in front of each day of the week that you're open, and then select your open hours in that 24-hour or military time. You also have the ability to be closed for lunch at the same time every day that you're open. Right? Just put a check mark here, and then select your lunch hours in that 24-hour military time, and then click on Save Changes. Next up, office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here, and then over here, click on Add Holiday. You have the option here for single day, date range, or advanced. Each one of these creates a new row. Single day, like I have here for Christmas Day, right? So I gave it a name, I choose a month and a date, and then Save Changes. Date range, like I have here from holiday, gave it a name, a start date, and an end date. Save Changes. Advanced is like I have from Memorial Day, where I choose the month, and then the second pull down, you have the options first through 5th, as well as last, and the day of the week, right? And then Save Changes. If you want to get rid of a holiday, click on the little trash icon, and then Save Changes. Incoming call handling. So for calls that come in on my main numbers, how do I want the system to handle calls during my open hours, during my after hours, and during my holidays? Now, so for my open hours, I've decided to use this first option here, where basically calls that come in on these main numbers, they all go to my virtual receptionist. This is a link. When I click on it, it opens up a big box. On my left are my menu options, right? This is what people can press on their phones to navigate through my phone system. And to get these options here, right down here, I click on Add Route. That gives me a new row. This first pull down, I have the options from 0 through 9, plus the star key and the default action. And then the pull down here are things on my account, right? So you'd want to have like users and groups in place first before setting up your main number. That way you're not going back and forth and basically wasting time for yourself, right? But you can select a particular user for a menu option. This account has call queues, so you can have a call queue as an option. Here are my groups, etc. Then we have your greeting options. Text-to-speech, you type in a greeting here in the box, and the system will read it back as a computerized or robotic voice to the inbound caller. You can enter up to 250 characters, not words, characters. It does not count spaces. However, it names the file for you. So in this case, because we're in our open hours, the text-to-speech file, if I created one here, would be my main open hours menu TTS, right? That would be the name of the file. If I came back and edited this file, because let's say I missed a menu option, I would then have two files called main open hours menu TTS. My recommendation is when you make use of a TTS greeting, is after you've created it, on the left-hand side, there's the greetings tab, which we'll be getting to. Go there, find your main open hours menu TTS file, and change the name, just so it's something you can easily recognize. Upload your own file. Right, click on a little button here to find a MP3 or, whoops. Here we go. Sorry. Choose the MP3 or .wav file, and then upload. Choose from the existing recording. This pull down will show you all your media files on the account, right? So voicemail greetings, main greetings, ringback files. So that's why you want to use names that you can easily recognize. But you choose from the pull down and then click update. Record over the phone. When it says pick up a phone registered on this account, that means a VoIP phone. All right, but then you pick up that phone, dial your main number, and then enter the PIN number. The PIN number is specific to the time of day, right? So my open hours. So if I tried to call in on Saturday and use this PIN number, it wouldn't work because I'd be calling in during my after hours. And when you call in over the phone, you're overwriting the existing main greeting, right? So you hear the main greeting play, you enter the PIN number. That main greeting you just heard will disappear. The file name will still be there, but you're overwriting the content. You can also choose from professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings, where you've got a choice of like several voice actors and actresses to choose from, as well as just different versions of English, as well as multilingual options. They bill you directly via credit card and then email you the file. So then you just come back up here to upload your own file. Settings. First up, number of retries on this dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. I usually recommend setting this to anywhere from 1 to 3. It's typically plenty. But let's like if a caller calls in and they press 7, which is not a menu option and it's not an extension number, right? Then they would get one additional attempt, right? So the greeting would play again and give that inbound caller a second attempt to make a valid option. Dialing timeout, usually defaults to 10, right? I usually set it anywhere from 1 to 5. This is how many seconds the system waits for additional button press after the first one, i.e. someone's trying to enter an extension number, it gives them time to enter the additional digits. Allow outside recording. By default, this is off. And this is why you have to use a VoIP phone to record a greeting over the phone. If you turn this on, you can call in with a cell phone or a landline to change your greeting over the phone. Although once you're done, we do recommend turning this back to off. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and this just simply means that if the inbound caller enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. Right? If I turn this off, that means they can only press the menu options. If they enter an extension number, it's treated as an invalid entry. Here you have to suppress the playing of the invalid entry. By default, this is off. Right? So customer enters in their 2 attempts, and on that last attempt, the system will say, we did not recognize your entry. Now, since I have a default action in place here, the system would then transfer the call. In that scenario, I may not want that message to play, right? Because I'm automatically transferring to my support group. So I could turn that on, right? So turn on the suppression, right? So now, under that failed last attempt, the system will just transfer the call to my support group here, and one of my staff members would pick up. If you make any changes to your main menu, your greetings, or these settings, you want to click Save here. And then when you come back to the incoming call handling, click Save Changes here. Right, you're clicking Save twice. Now for after hours, I'm using the second option. This is the live operator answer option. This pull down allows me to select a user, a group, a queue, etc., even a device, right? But basically the idea is you're giving somebody or several people a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to pick up, then the caller is sent to the virtual receptionist. And because it's my after hours, it's going to have a different greeting as well as different menu options. And then holidays, I'm using this third option where I'm saying, hey, skip trying to offer the call to anyone and then go to the voicemail box I selected. Now I can choose to make use of the first pull down. So I can offer the call, right, to my holiday on-call person, whoever that may be, or my group that I have set up for that, etc. Device. I can even have a media file play. They're like, hey, it's the holidays. That's why we're not here right now, right? And then still, I can select whatever voicemail box I want the caller to be sent to. All right. Main conference number. You can have multiple conference numbers here, so I can add from spare, buy new. You also have the option to have a custom text-to-speech conference greeting, right? You would click Edit or Enable, and then type in a text-to-speech greeting here, and then click on Save. Now, if I left this as disabled, whenever you call your conference room number, the system still says welcome to the conference, and then prompts you to enter the conference room number and PIN number. Excuse me. Right, main fax box number, you can only have the one main fax box number, so I don't have the options to add more, but I do have the option to edit the fax box. So here, first up, you have the inbound notification, right, designed to put an email address here. So that way this email address gets sent an email every time a fax comes into the system, right? It'll have a PDF attachment so they can view the fax. If someone calls your fax box number, right, so say from their cell phone and then hangs up, the person still gets an email saying that there is a failed inbound fax attempt. Now, sometimes in the body of the email right now, it will have the phone number of the person who called in, and sometimes the caller ID will say wireless number, right? Well, that's dead giveaway. Someone misdialed. Don't have to worry about it. Beyond that, if it's a number you recognize or are expecting a fax from, then you'd want to reach out to the party to have them try again. The email permissions, this is designed to put your company's email domain in the box to the right. And this way, anyone of your staff can send a fax out on the system as long as they have that proper format, even if they're not a user on the Dash account. Right? So anyone at VirtualPBX.com, they can send a fax out on the system as long as they know the account realm. Right? That +1 area code number at symbol account realm, and then attach a PDF or TIFF. All right, auto attendance is a plan-specific feature, right? Available on some plans and not others. This allows you to create secondary attendance. For instance, if you have multiple businesses, right? So each business has its own phone numbers and own main greetings, right? You'd want those other businesses having different auto attendance versus having a separate account. The other common instance is for sub-menuing, right? So you want to say, people call your main number, but then they're given the option to press 1 for English and 2 for Spanish. you could then create an English and Spanish auto attendant here. So that way you have a further greeting in the appropriate language, and the menu options go to people who speak the appropriate language. Up here, you click on Add Attendant. You give it a name, you give it an extension number, and then you click on Create Auto Attendant. It would show up here. Now, when you first click on a new attendant, it defaults to be unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, right? So in this case, Walk the Dog is a separate business, so I want to leave it as unavailable in main menu. Whereas Spanish, right, this is a sub-menu option, so I would want to change it to available in main menu and then click on Save Changes. Right, so this allows me to have Spanish as a menu option from my virtual receptionist, or even as a next action for a group, for example. Now, auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? You can add from spare or buy new, and then save changes. You can have multiple extension numbers for your auto attendants. Your customers likely would never know these extension numbers, but your staff might, i.e. like I needed to transfer someone to the Spanish menu because I don't speak fluent enough Spanish. Little wrench icon here under settings. You have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This matches what we set up under the main number, right? So if you have businesses that are, one business that's 24/7 versus the one that's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you're going to want to talk to our account services team about what the best option is for you in terms of trying to have them on one account where we do custom work for you, or if it makes more sense for you to have two separate accounts. Right. The Devices tab shows your devices on the account. Red means it's unregistered, right? So we can't send a call to it. Green, like this one here, right? Registered, so it can accept calls. If you turn a device off, right? So under this enable column here, it'll turn black, and then that would show up as a unregistered device under the dashboard page. You can add devices directly to this page here, but you're not able to assign them to users. So not always recommended. If you click on the little wrench icon here, especially next to the VoIP phones, under advanced, the main thing I wanted to show is emergency information. No. All right, that setting got messed up, I think. Yeah, I haven't set it up under the main number, so that's why that's giving me an error. But this would allow you to set up or assign numbers to your various VoIP devices, specifically for E911. For physical VoIP phones, under audio, right? For the selected codecs, you're going to want G711U and G711A over here on the right. And that would be also for third-party soft phones you're setting up for use with hardware. And that's the major things there. Next up is the Greetings tab. Right? This shows your greetings media files on the account. You've got the names and then the source, right? TTS, text-to-speech. Upload means the file was uploaded, and recording means it was recorded over the phone. You can play back the file by clicking on the little icon here and under that column. You can download the file, so I can keep a copy on your local system. Or if you can't play it back in your browser for whatever reasons. Little wrench icon here under edit. This is where you could change the name of the file or just delete the greeting completely. All right, numbers. Oh, wait, sorry. I forgot something. Up here at the top, you can add or upload new greetings here. Again, you're not assigning them, but they're available. Right, just click Browse, find an MP3 or .wav file, right? Give it a name, click on Create Greeting. It will upload it here, and then go to the relevant area to assign it. All right, numbers takes you to your numbers in use page. All right, so it shows where your numbers are assigned. You got the gear icon, so you can update the caller ID, E911, and prepend. If you go to spare numbers, this shows the numbers that you're not currently using. If you want to remove a number account, it first needs to be a spare number, right? And then you'd want to click on the box in front of the numbers. Then you have the option here to delete will show up. Click on that, click on delete numbers and confirm the deletion. So now I have less phone numbers. I can still buy new numbers here to add as additional spare numbers if I want to. The port link here, this starts the new port request. Right, so give it a name, choose local or toll free. Then you need to upload a PDF copy of your most recent bill, and then fill out the resulting forms and follow the on-screen instructions. The information that's requested should match what your current carrier has on file for you. Right, so whatever company name, say AT&T, has on file, an address, that's what should be inputted on the form, as well as on the LOA, or letter of agency. The LOA does need a signature, whether that's a digital signature file you add, or you went old school, printed it out, signed it, and scanned it back in. Toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days to complete a port if everything's correct. Local numbers can vary, anywhere from 1 business day to 3 weeks is what I've seen. If we get a rejection, we double check to make sure there wasn't a typo or error that we made, or if there's additional information that we could use, right? Like if you had 2 different addresses listed, we could try them both. Once we've exhausted our options, then we reach out to you, let you know, going, hey, we're getting an error for this, and so please reach out to your current carrier to find out what the correct information is in order to port out. Right, voicemail boxes shows your voicemail boxes on the account. Anything with an entry under this column here means there was a voicemail box created with the user, but you can create your own voicemail boxes up here at the top. Right, give it a name, give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number, and then click on Create Voicemail Box. One thing to keep in mind is the voicemail box number is not the same as an extension number, right? So if someone dials into your main number, gets the auto attendant, and then tries to enter the voicemail box number that they want to leave a message in, it won't go through unless you can set it up as a menu option, right? So option 9 to leave a voicemail for the billing team, for example. Once a voicemail box is created, you can click on the wrench icon here. The basic information for the voicemail box number, PIN number, right? That's what you would use to call in to listen to messages over the phone or change the greeting, etc. If we go to the advanced greeting media, right? You can upload or select from the pull down existing media files to use for the media file. The temporary file is for that out of office or vacation message. So if you have something selected on both temporary and media, only the temporary file plays. Once you send the temporary back to none, then the media file will play. Recipients. So your user voicemail boxes already have a recipient in place, right? The email address used for login. But for any voicemail box you create on this page, you want to come here and click on Add New Recipient and then enter an email address, right? Keep clicking Add until you're done, and then click on Save Changes. And then options. So once you have a media file in place and recipients in place, you can click on Already Set Up, right? You can also verify this one here, that you're attaching messages to the email. Now, this is my support box, and so I've also opted to delete messages after the notification is sent out. Right, so this way, this voicemail box never becomes full, which might be a concern for my customers, right? So I wouldn't want that. And so I'm just relying on my staff members to either hopefully just answer the calls all the time, but if not, that we'll be able to get the emails necessary to call customers back. Text forward, this is an add-on feature, so any system admin can enable it. Up here at the top, you click on Add Number, choose a number that's on your account, and then either enter an email address or add the webhook that you want to send it to, not both, one or the other. One thing I would recommend is make sure that the number you use is assigned, right? So assigned to a user, a group, main number, something. Just because if you leave it as a spare number and it gets accidentally deleted, the text forward isn't removed. So you think it might still be in use when it's really not getting anything. But beyond that, this is designed so that a text comes into the phone number, and in these cases, it's being sent out to the relevant email addresses. Virtual extensions is a plan-specific feature. So if you're interested in this, you'd want to reach out to our account services team. This allows you to add additional extensions without adding users, right? So you would click up here to add extension. You give it a name, you give it an extension number, you click on create extension, right? And then you can come to the device and you can add a new device. Now, the soft phone, you can only add a third-party soft phone here, right? Because there's no email associated with the virtual extension, so we can't send them the credentials, right? So typically designed with the like a VoIP phone or cell phone number. Also, the virtual extensions could be like a menu option coming in from the main number or auto attendants. Also, since it's a valid extension number, right? Someone can enter this extension number and reach this person. Now, the virtual extensions cannot be used as a member of a group, right? Not a user, right? They can't be added to the call center because, again, not a user. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You can go from the day, the current week, the current month. These are all downloadable as CSV files. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll get some more information out of the call logs. Custom, you can choose your date range, right? So you can go back to like the previous month, for instance, then click filter. The green arrow to the right is a call coming into the system. If you click on expand, you can see that the call came in and where it went out to. Right, yellow arrow to the left is an outbound call. Little fire extinguisher icon here, this reports the call, right? So it creates an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's gonna have the technical information about the call. Please enter the context, like i.e. why are you sending this in to us? We may not be able to recognize just from the technical information why you're sending it in. The custom field lets you go back to up to 1 year. If you need to go further than that, you can reach out to our support team. Our engineers can go back up to 18 months, but after that, the data is not available. If you need your call log data for any kind of compliance reasons, I recommend downloading every month. Feature codes. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. Right, this is the page here under your dashboard. You can also see this under the support pages, right? You can do a search for feature codes or the phone commands cheat sheet, which has little context help there also. All right, so that's the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your staff members. Over here, you click Edit Blacklists. You click Add to create a new list. I'm just going to use an existing list here, right? So you give it a name, and then you choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not, right? An anonymous call just means a call that's coming in that is not presenting caller ID. Right? By turning this on, I'm blocking them, right? If I turn it off, and that's the default is off, they come through. Beyond that, under here, under list of phone numbers, click on Add Number. Put +1 area code and phone number. No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Keep clicking Add until you're done. And then click on Save at the bottom. Then towards the top right, go back to Settings. Make sure your list is on the right-hand side under Selected. Right? You might need to click and drag it over. And then click Update. Right? So now the phone numbers on these lists, right? They'll reach the system. Right, they'd show up in your call log, but then they would get busy tone, right? They would not actually reach out to your users. Call recording. So this account is set up with AWS integration turned on. So when I go to call recording, it shows me this, which is showing me the call recordings for at the AWS side. So I can see the inbound calls, the outbound calls, the date, the time. I can play it back and I can download it. If you're using the built-in call recording, this would actually open up a new tab, take you to recordings.virtualpbx.net, actually .com, excuse me. And it does require a login, which just uses your dash login information. And then you can then do the same thing. You could do a search by date, see the phone numbers involved, download them, play them back, or even delete them there. Monitor is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members. You can either go by employees or go by devices. And for both, you can do everything, who's available or who's busy. Also, over here on the left, active inbound calls. Each active inbound call would be a little blue box and showing who on your staff they're speaking to. Part calls would show the phone number of the person who's calling in and their parking spot number. Reports, plan-specific feature. This would open a new tab, take you to reports.virtualpbx.com, has its own login. This allows you to create your own reports. If you look in the show notes, there's the advanced reporting demo down there. I would recommend clicking on that to give you an example of what can be done with reports. This is an add-on, so you could turn it, says admin can enable it via the add-ons page. It also might be worth it to talk to our account services team to see if it makes more sense to change a plan versus going through the add-on process. Voicemails included feature. You can get to any voicemail box on the account where you can see the messages they have. If you put a check mark in front of the message, as an admin, you have the option to move it to a different message or different voicemail box, excuse me, or change its status. Right? You can play it back, download it, etc. Integration AWS, since it's enabled on this account, this shows you how you would do it or what you would need. So the access key, secret access key, and bucket are the pieces of information we would need from AWS in order to link your account to your Dash account to AWS. All right, call center. This is an upgrade off of existing accounts. It may require changing plans because I don't believe like the starter plan has access to the call center. If you look in the show notes, there's the ACD Queues Pro demo, which would show you what the queues can do. But like if you ever called your bank and then said, please wait for the next available agent, right? As a caller, you've entered a call queue. Same idea, right? So you assign agents or staff members as agents to your call center to be in various queues. And basically then they wait there to get a call. The system will skip people who are on a call already in a queue, as well as anyone who marks themselves away. Your staff members, in fact, can log into the queue if they're assigned to ones, mark themselves away like when they go to lunch, as well as end their session so they're no longer getting calls while they're not on shift, right? Which is not something they can do in the groups. From a management perspective, managers can eavesdrop in on a call, whisper to their staff member, or even barge in so they're speaking to both people. Dynamic caller ID, plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So I'm just going to click edit here on this one here. I've named it Vegas. I chose a 702 number on my account. And I simply said whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code phone number to change their outbound caller ID to the 702 number I selected. Right, so it looks like a local call. The other thing you can do is create a feature code. So instead, I can have my staff members dial *951. When they do so, whatever phone number they're reaching out to automatically change to this 916 number I have selected. Faxes is an included feature. This lets you get to any fax box on the account. So here you see the inbound faxes, the date, the time. You can see the document. You can download it. The outbound fax tab. Right, you see your outbound faxes. The failure, you can mouse over it. And you see here, it's saying that the phone number was good, but we didn't get fax tones. i.e. it might have been a wrong number. But beyond that, you see the date, the time, pages, etc. The email to fax logs, if you see information here, that means we had a problem with processing the request. You'd want to click on the little eyeball icon on the far right. And you see here, there was a problem converting the attachment. Normally when you see that, you simply want to try again. Maybe try resaving the document or exporting it as a PDF or downloading it, etc. Sometimes you see things like the user doesn't have a voicemail box, and that's usually because they use their personal email address versus the work email address. Number manager, this just takes you back to your spare number page. Webhooks, plan-specific feature. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. If you look in the show notes, there's introduction to Zapier webinar, which covers some of webhooks. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we've done to link Dash to other software. Right? It's essentially programming. You'd actually want to speak to our sales team about webhooks if you're interested in this, as they have some more information about doing so. SMS registration. So if you want to make use of texting, you do have to go through the SMS registration process. For new signups, you're actually going to want to talk to our account services team because they will go over this with you about what to expect and how to go about it. There is a one-time fee, I believe, still in effect for that. But once you've started the process, if you go to registration status here on the third tab, it will show you what your current status is. And then lastly, the user portal, right? Every user has access to their own user portal. Starts off on your voicemail tab, right? So I can listen to my voicemail messages, download that, etc. Also, I can change its status. Call history tab, I can view my own call history. I can change the date range to go further back. This is not as nearly as detailed as the call log. It just shows you who you called. The fax tab only works for users that you've enabled a fax box on the user directly, but it would show their fax history. Contact list shows things on your account, right? Other users, groups, auto attendance, the feature codes, etc. Right? So it's not something your staff can edit or update. The conference tab, only good for users that have enabled the conference feature on. Not sure why it's taking so long to load. All right, well, we'll come back to it. The settings and devices, right here is where your staff members can enable call forwarding on their own. Put a check mark here, put +1 area code and phone number, and then save. Now I'm call forwarding. Right? Uncheck it, click save again. Now I'm not call forwarding. Not sure why the conference page is taking so long to load. So on the conference page, on the right-hand side, that's where you would edit like PIN numbers, or the user would edit their PIN numbers for their conference. You'd want to make sure that the moderator PIN number and participant PIN number are different, right, as a security feature. But you also have the option to have people join deafened or muted, as well as to play entry and exit tones. While in a conference, it can be on this conference page. You can invite other Dash users to the conference by clicking on the little plus icon. You can lock a conference so other people cannot join. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody, as well as end the conference call. Each individual participant and moderator will have their own little box. So a moderator can mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. Not quite sure why this isn't loading, so you might probably want to check one of our previous trainings to see what I'm talking about. Though those are on our show page here. And that is everything. And since I haven't seen any questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today and hope you have a wonderful day.